Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started now. It's 10:30. Good morning and welcome to the 43rd CALLERLAB Convention in Norfolk, Virginia. Today is March 22nd, 2016, and this is the Mission Support Session. I am Janet Olivieri, and I will serve as your moderator for this session. And our panelists today are Lilith Kopman from New York and Allynn from Colorado. Just a little bit about myself. Like I said, my name is Janet Olivieri. My husband is Mike Olivieri. He's been calling for 19 years. This is our 18th CALLERLAB convention. We absolutely love it, or we wouldn't keep doing it. I will let each of my panelists introduce themselves, and then I will start, and then I'll have them jump in, and we'll take questions at the end. Okay, so Lilith.
I thought you were going to start.
No, I'm going to have you introduce yourself.
Oh, hi. I'm Lilith Kopman, and I'm from New York, and I'm married to Lee Kopman. I still love him. 61 years it's going to be. Can you imagine how lucky that is? My kids in school used to get so excited when they heard that I was married 50 years, because, you know, the kids in the high school, they don't know about that anymore. So they were so thrilled to know that this old lady, 61 years it's going to be. Unless I make some mistakes or something.
Just push it up. Still young. Go ahead.
All right, I'm Allynn Riggs out of Centennial, Colorado. My husband is Bob, and he's been calling for 40 years. I have been dancing for 51 years. I'm the daughter of a caller and have been around it my entire life. So one of my first mentors as being a partner was my mother. And so I bring a slightly different perspective to it.
Okay, what I'd like to do first is just read you what it says. I know you all read it or you wouldn't be here. That the description says, experience and longevity as a caller partner should count for something. Come learn the strategies and techniques used by some amazing partners who manage to encourage, support, and enhance their caller's career while balancing their own lives. In this session, there is something for everyone, whether you are new at being a caller's partner or someone who has been a caller's partner for a while. Callers will find this session helpful in building that special relationship with their partner. So I just wanted to start with telling you who I am and what I do. I am a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a daughter, a sister, an aunt, a niece, and a friend. I'm a homemaker. I volunteer at church and at the senior center. I play Scrabble once a week with my high school friends. I'm a Red Hat leader. I take care of my mom, who lives in assisted living but refuses to go to the doctor without me. I read, I camp, I sew. I'm writing a cookbook. I sell used square dance clothes out of my home. And my passion is genealogy and traveling. That's a lot of things. My number one job, though, is to support Mike, my caller, and my husband. And we've been married 46 years this year. I go to all of his dances and his party dances. Those are his one-night stands. I go to most of his classes, and he teaches 4 classes a week starting in September. I track all of his music and themes when we go to a dance. We don't want to do the same music when we go back to that same club. I do all of his sound checks, and we have a shorthand signal: up, down, voice, music, too loud. I also fill in where I'm needed. I can dance the girls' part and the boys' part on mainstream and plus and hex. I provide feedback to him. I'm his biggest fan and I'm his biggest critic. He doesn't always like that. I schedule dances for him. I'm the liaison between the dancers and him. At a party dance, he's out on the floor. I'm running the music. I help set up and I help pack up. And when we go to a dance, he never eats and he never sits down. So I make sure that I fix him a snack plate and I have it ready for him when we leave so he can eat it in the car on the way home. Once a year, I create and print out his schedule for the year so that I can hand it out to people. And I keep the master calendar in the contract book. Thank goodness I'm retired. So I'm going to read you a little thing called Mission Statement. I got some help from my daughter. And if you really want to know what you do, ask one of your family members to write down what they see your life as. And I'm not going to read hers, but it was really good. It made me cry. So I'm going to read you something else instead. As a caller's wife, my life is extremely busy. If you break down the title of this program, Mission Support, it is just that, supporting the mission. What's the mission? Supporting my husband, the caller, encouraging him and helping him to reach his goals, as well as maintaining my personal interest in self. It's easy to lose sight of yourself as you provide support for your caller. It is the equivalent of a second job without pay. You spend countless hours with or without them as they take endless phone calls and gigs. There is the traveling, working on music, listening to new songs, working out patterns, booking dances, travel arrangements, attending classes, and assisting where you can, when you can. Some days are good, and some days are bad. The moods change and people come and go. It's your job to know everything that the caller knows, whether you want to or not. You are the go-to person. You are the one who is asked to help complete a square, to be either the girl or the man. You are the caller's secretary when he is calling, taking messages to give him after the dance. Before you know it, square dancing has engulfed your entire life. And we do eat, breathe, and sleep square dancing. It can overrun you, and you begin to wonder what happened to me. I'm here to tell you how important it is to find the balance of support for your caller while taking care of yourself as an individual and your family. And that's the hard part, but it doesn't have to be. Clear boundaries needs to be set as you do with anything else in your life and your families. You have to set aside time for yourself, just you and your caller, away from square dancing, and you, your caller, and your family. This can be as easy as saying, every Tuesday I'm staying home and I'm doing something just for me, even if there is a class or a dance. For me right now, that's my genealogy night. It's okay to say no. You do not have to attend every single event. Remember, they are the caller and you are the support. On Thursday night, we sit down at the table as a family for dinner. No school, square dancing, or work talk. I know this sounds easier than it is, and I get that. I have a hard time saying no, or not tonight, and honestly, I feel guilty or selfish when I do say no. But I have to every once in a while for my own sanity. This doesn't mean that I don't love and support either my caller or the love of the dance. I do, and it is just as much a part of me as all of the other things that I enjoy. There are so many benefits to being a caller's wife. I love meeting new friends and networking. Some of these people have become family to me as much as my own kids. I love to learn about people and where they came from, what brought them here, and the stories that we share are incredible. I have enjoyed traveling, so that to me is being able to knock out two for the price of one. And the places we have been to and see, if it wasn't for square dancing, I wouldn't know, because it's just, when we travel, we get as much in as we can. And most of all, you will never hear me complain about being able to spend any time with my husband, the memories we have built, and many more yet to come. Square dancing is contagious. It has been passed down through the generations in my family alone. My parents square danced, Mike's parents square danced, Mike and I square dance. We have a daughter who dances, and we have 2 grandkids who dance. It makes me happy to see him happy, and I know he loves what he's doing. That makes it worth it to me to be there to support him. I watch his hobby turn into a passion, from starting out as a local caller to becoming a regional caller. I see his success with every graduating class. It's being able to see him be himself, cut loose, and have fun while watching others have fun too. Even on our most stressful day of square dancing, it is relaxed, laid back, and a worthwhile adventure. So just to summarize that, first of all, you have to negotiate. Don't be afraid to say no. Have some me time, and you have to schedule that because otherwise it doesn't happen. Keep your non-dancing friends and do things with them. They provide your sanity and your balance. Combine square dancing with other activities when you can. So, like when we come to CALLERLAB, we always add on a couple of more days, and we become tourists, and we figure we can sleep at home because we're going to see all we can while we're here. The other thing we like to do is we like to camp, and we have a group of square dancing friends who like to camp with us. So, to give you an example, Mike got hired to do a dance in Spearfish, South Dakota, which is not exactly close to Colorado, but okay. We had 11 Colorado square dancers go to that dance. And while we were there, after the dance, the next day, we went to Mount Rushmore. At the end of the lighting ceremony that night, we all ran down to the stage, talked to the park ranger, and said, "Can we dance on the stage? Can we? Can we? Ha." And he was really nice. He said, "Yeah, you can dance on the stage." So I have video of us square dancing on the stage at Mount Rushmore with the mountain lit up behind us. Awesome memory. The other place we danced was in Wind Cave, 214 feet below ground, also a national park. We look for the different things to do, like dancing in the cave, dancing on a mountaintop. And we have to schedule our downtime for our family and our vacations away from square dancing. We found out this year that the most time we have between calling gigs is 6 days. That's not going to be real well camping with our grandkids this year. I already talked about when we're traveling, we extend it. And for resources, like I said, ask your family what they see your life as. You'll be surprised. And also on the web, there is I just put in on being a caller's wife, and an article popped up by Debbie Cedar. And it's actually says Debbie Bliss, but it's Vic Cedar's wife. And it's an excellent, excellent article on being a caller's wife. Lilith, it's all Lilith. Who wants to go next?
I hardly know where to begin, and I usually tell you the same things. And I say, a minister or a rabbi's wife doesn't necessarily choose that job. Their husband are ministers and rabbis, and that makes them, in a certain way, like a caller's wife. Everybody's always looking to see what you do, if you're doing the right thing. If you sit with a long puss at a dance and you look like you're not having a good time, that's contagious. Just like it's a job that we get, whether we chose it or not. If we love the man to whom we're married or the woman to whom we're married, it becomes our life like it's their life. I don't think I have ever met a caller who likes it a little. They love it to death. It means everything to them. If they call once a month, once a week, 7 nights a week, it doesn't matter. It is their being, their core. It means so much to them. So that, in my opinion, I've always been a part of it, except when our kids were little. And I have to tell you, there were times when I was tired, and when our kids were little, I didn't always go every night. And there was a gal who would go to the beginner class, and at the end of the beginner class, the season, they gave her a present. I was jealous as hell. I really was. I thought, I didn't go, and look, she got this present. Anyway, sometimes when my kids were little, I didn't go. But in the last many years, I go always. I go during the week, and Lee teaches at school in a community college. And one of the 2 days, I go with him and I teach the lines. And I have to get up 5:30 to do it. And I have to tell you, Who likes getting up at 5:30? Nobody. But we love kids. And once we get there, it's like, oh, worth every minute. To see them love square dancing. These are college kids. And they get so excited. And when Lee sits them down at the end of the class, the end of the session, the 6 weeks, they say, this is the best class we ever took. And then try to get them to come to club, forget it. They're so busy. They have so many things to do and jobs to do and what have you. I think the hardest thing for a caller's partner is we are the only people on that dance floor who we are the only ones who are objective. Everyone else thinks about himself, how he's doing. We think about how our partner or how our husband is doing. That matters much more to me than that I dance well or that I be good. It matters to me that he be good. And so we can be very critical. And do you know nobody likes to hear you say, you know what? That music was too low, you didn't talk loud enough, blah, 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 blah. The hardest thing in the world is to be truthful. And I think the only way that I've been able to make it work is when he's really good. I get so excited, I practically fall on the floor with excitement and say, I loved it. I had the best time tonight. I wasn't bored for 1 second. I loved every minute. So then I feel that I'm allowed to say, you know what? The music was too loud, whatever. So I think that we have to know if we're going to be the critics, we also have to tell them how wonderful they are because callers have very fragile egos. All of them. They are they're performers. It's show business. So everyone has a fragile ego and doesn't like to know that he didn't do perfect, that he wasn't the most wonderful, that she wasn't the best that ever was. So that's a hard part. And as my friend said to me that I've always said, I never asked him to choose between me and square dancing because I'm never sure what he would have chosen. Never. That's how much they all love it. I wanted to be an actress. That was what I chose. In college, I went to speech and drama, and I was going to be a drama teacher. But then I said to my mother, gee, I was going to be in the theater. And then I thought, how can I do that to my parents? I'm going to be a speech teacher. So I became a speech teacher and promptly used to fall asleep in class because I'd have very small classes. 1 kid, 2 kids, fall asleep, and I'd have to wake myself up. But the theater part, when we would do plays and things like that, oh, that was my joy. And so my whole life has been show business. Because being a caller's wife, you're on stage or a caller's partner, you are always right up there with all the other actors and actresses in the cast. And you have to behave a certain way, even though sometimes it's tough and you had a crummy day. But it's contagious. Your excitement, your pleasure, your enjoyment, it's all very contagious. So I don't know if I have anything else to tell you. Oh, tough when we had kids, because I did everything. I'm sure every one of you did everything with the kids when they were growing up. Who's the one that drove them to after-school activities, that took them where they had to go on Saturday? But we did it all. We really did. And then I had a son. You know my son. From the time he was 6 months old, his daddy was the most important thing. He would be homesick. I would be killing myself a whole day taking care of this kid. And when his father walked in the door, Daddy, 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 Daddy. Well, it's the same still. I hardly know if he likes me. He really likes his daddy more than I can't begin to tell you. But it has to be tough because Square Dance Talk was talk at our table all the time. And we have a daughter who is not a Square Dance caller and wasn't really so interested, except when we were naming calls and things like that. Then she became interested. But with the father and son, talk at the dinner table always was Square Dance Talk. Really was. And I'll tell you another thing that we did that I don't know if people do that today, and this is only in my opinion. We always had dinner together. We were able to do that. And those were the days when we didn't have a TV. We still don't have a TV in the kitchen. We would sit together, and we were really a family together at dinner. He went out every night, but we all had dinner together so that they at least knew that they would have time when the whole family would be together. Some of you might find that difficult with different hours or what have you, but for us it seemed to work really very well. I don't think I have much else to say.
Okay. Allynn?
All right, my caller partner, and he is my partner as well, went out and downloaded a piece of the Callers Partners Committee Handbook, which is available on the CALLERLAB website. And the introduction by Karen Ripito, this is an updated version. I was actually involved with Erna Egender in getting the Partners Committee Handbook started and written. It was her idea, and you should go and read that handbook. Some of it's a little dated, but it really has the underlying principles of being a partner in this activity. On a personal note, I would say be prepared to adjust to changes in the activity and your interest levels, your caller's interest levels. Be willing to talk about it. You may decide to take on a greater or lesser portion of the activity, such as beginning to teach rounds or cue rounds to augment his or her program, which is what I've done in the last 4 years. You can take time off to raise kids or to care for older parents, which is like taking care of your kids, but can be actually a little more stressful. You could even learn how to call together. You could learn how to teach so that if they're sick or if their job takes them away on a trip or something, you can actually continue to teach the class. You'd be surprised at how much you know, and there's no reason why you can't do that. You need to support each other in these endeavors and learn from each other. Sometimes your caller doesn't know exactly how much you do until you're not there. And then they come home and they go, oh man, I didn't realize that you're the one that takes the money. You're the one that says hello to everybody when they come in the hall. You're the one that actually knows everybody in the hall. So you need to work as a team. And when you work as a team, some of the following things that I have here, I do have a handout, by the way. And you should be willing to discuss these things between the two of you. Planning and scheduling. You need to know where the caller's schedule is maintained. Unlike Janet, who does all the scheduling and discussion, and she keeps a whole lot better track of what Mike does than I do, Bob. Bob does all of his own scheduling. He actually has allowed me to have a paper schedule hanging in the kitchen, so I know what he's doing. All of his stuff is on his phone and his laptop. I'm not as technically adept as he is. However, I do take phone calls from prospects for classes or clubs. The club leaders that call and ask if Bob is available, I can tell them that he's available, but I do not tell them prices. So you need to talk to your partner as to how much, on average, he or she would charge for certain events, particularly dance parties or events outside of the modern Western square dance world. You also, okay, and then in preparation, your attire. I was raised as a square dance caller's daughter, and my father always told me that because he was the caller and he was on stage, that as a family member, I would be dressed appropriately. From the time I was an infant, I was dressed in square dance attire at every event. And he said, if it involves square dancing, you will dress the part, whether you want to be that individual or not. It was his reputation that I needed to uphold. And as a child, that was sometimes a little difficult, but I think that dressing the part is, we now say that our attire is modest, neat, and clean. You can wear slacks if you want. You could even wear t-shirts, but they've got to be modest, neat, and clean. We don't particularly go for halter tops and shorts and sandals. Most of the time, I know that I am probably the better dressed people at an event, but that's okay. I've actually shocked a couple of classes when I was working for a CPA, and during tax season I would show up in what I came from work, and sometimes that was slacks and a sweater, and our class and club people didn't recognize me because I wasn't in a skirt. And sometimes when we're on the top of Mount Evans, that's the only time I don't really wear square dance attire because it's too windy and too cold, but we actually do sort of a flash mob thing at the top of Mount Evans, which is the highest paved road in the United States. And we have a lot of fun up there. We actually had Mike and Janet up there a couple of years ago, and Bob actually got to dance, and he decided that dancing was harder than calling at over 14,000 feet. But it was fun. In preparing, helping your caller partner prepare for a dance, ask them about it before you leave. Like, what might they be planning to do? Where can you help them in setting up? Is there any special thing that they might want you to do? Before you leave home, make sure that he or she has the event contract and the contact name, the time schedule, the address, emergency phone numbers, any necessary directions on how to get to places. If they don't have it and you don't have it, you may miss the event, and that's not a good thing. You can help set up the equipment once you get there. You can help with sound checks before the dancers arrive and during the dance. At the events, be at the front door and help the club or event organizers greet all of the participants. Express pleasure in their presence and their participation, whether you really want to be there or not. Do it with a smile. Help your caller manage the dancers. You can assist in formation setups or fill in on sets. You should be willing to assist in demonstrations if you and your caller need to demonstrate something. If you do not feel comfortable helping them demonstrate, make sure you've talked about that beforehand, and then the caller can use someone else on the floor. Behave as if you are delighted to be there, because you are delighted to be there. Share your joy in the activity. You can help observe the dancers as they're dancing. Let your caller know if there's any major problems out there. Devise your little sign language signals, from the side of the hall or the back of the hall. It took Bob ages after telling me, I want you to tell me whether it's too much sound or not enough sound or something. He would never look at me. I'm in the back waving, jumping up and down, going, turn it up, or turn it down, turn it down. He would never look. And then at the end of the tip, I would walk up and say, you weren't looking at me. It was too loud or it was too soft. And he said, well, I didn't know where you were. And I'd say, well, you told me to be in the back hall, back of the hall right over here, and that's where I was the whole 15 minutes, waving my hands, and you never looked at me. And because the dancers are actually his important focus at that time. He's making those pretty pictures on the floor. But if he would look at me just once in a while, it would help. But after 38 years, he's finally starting to look for me. You can help protect the calling equipment. We have had, particularly at dance parties or outdoor venues, we have had equipment fall off of tables and stands due to high winds. Twice now we have had our yak stack, the handle has been pushed through the casing. We've rebuilt that case twice. We're now not using the yak stack anymore, but we have an even scarier piece called a Bose L1 Compact, which gives incredible sound, but I worry about where that speaker is sometimes, because when he moves it, it kind of wobbles, and sometimes you even have to protect the equipment from your caller. Especially with cords, when you hand the microphone to that club president and they take it and they start walking off with it, you grab the cord so that they don't pull your sound system off the table. My father had that happen and completely flipped his, at that time he didn't have all this wonderful digital music. He still had the record player and stuff, and he had an event organizer pull it completely off a table 6 feet onto a cement floor. We got a phone call. Fortunately, he was at the north end of Denver and we were at the south end, and Bob was gone, and I took my husband's set up to my father so he could finish his event. I don't know what he did with the half hour in between, but it was a pretty panicked phone call because my mother was not there to protect the equipment. You should also think about interacting with the host, whether it be a club president or an event organizer. They will be wonderful people to talk to. You are your caller's best marketer and advertiser and sounding board. After your events, you can do what Bob calls a retrospective. Our daughters would call it a debriefing. So after you leave an event, you don't do it during the event unless it's really quiet and just little bit of pieces. You wait until after you've closed the car doors and you're on the road. You start out with what was good about it. There's always something good about the event. Then you say, okay, what could you have done better? You can give him or her your opinion of what they could have done better, and then listen to them tell you what they think they could have done better. Realize that no event will go perfectly, but look to identify one or two items that you or your caller can work to improve on for the next time. There's always room for improvement on our part as well, whether it's staying out of the way or getting in the way. It is a passion, and if you are not passionate about it, make sure that you build a support for your caller. You don't have to go. You realize you don't have to do everything that we have done or are doing. There are some partners out there that never go to an event. They might go dancing with their caller, but they are not interested in being on stage in front of people. There are the partners that go and sit in the back corner and do needlework, crocheting or whatever. I tried that twice very early on and decided that was not the kind of partner I felt comfortable being. So you need to find your own comfort zone. But be willing to be open to change. Don't discount sitting in the back and just quietly enjoying the evening, or going out and visiting with everybody along the edge. Talk to those people that are sitting out. Find out why they're sitting out sometimes. Maybe they're not feeling well. Maybe they twisted their ankle or somebody stepped on their toe. There are lots of things that you can find out by talking to the dancers. Somebody in the squares really squeezed their hand too hard. This happens particularly at class. Then you can go up and say, hey, we need to talk about handholds again. We need to talk about being nervous and grasping too hard or pulling or jerking. And sometimes those people pulling and jerking are the angels. It might be your responsibility to have a discussion with the angels while the caller is still teaching. So just be willing to talk to each other. If you don't talk to each other, it's not going to work out real well. But make sure you do it with joy and love.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you. I did come up with a couple of other ideas as they were talking. Attire, dressing the part. Been a really hot topic for many, many years. And when my husband went to his first collar school, and I went with him, and I was told, you are the collar's wife, you will dress the part. It does reflect on him. So I did, for a long time. But I also was hearing the dancers, it's like, I'm not wearing those fluffy skirts, I don't want to, I'm not going to come. And I want the dancers to be comfortable. My caller is the performer. I'm the support, but I also support the dancers. And so I wear what's comfortable for me, whatever that may be. Some nights it's a prairie skirt, some nights it's a short skirt with petticoats. Some nights it's slacks or blue jeans. We do a party dance. These are all non-dancers. I wear blue jeans and a Western shirt, usually a CALLERLAB shirt, because they know they're all going to be wearing blue jeans because they all think it's Western. But I want to dress like the dancers. So we do that. But I agree with the modest, neat, and clean. That's really important. One of the things that we do is we theme every one of our dancers. And this is something that Mike is known for in our area. It's like, what's his theme going to be tonight? I don't know. He didn't tell me. But I'm going to be surprised just like you. So I keep track of his themes, but we work together on which songs go with that theme. We do a whole Beatles theme, and we play only Beatles music. We just did a Disney dance. And let me tell you, you have never seen Mike unless you've seen him in a Mickey Mouse costume, complete with the big head, and me in a Snow White dress. I'm up running the music, and he is out there calling on the floor, and nobody knows who he is or where he's at. And we only do Disney music. Those are some of the fun things that we do and that I support him in, because we didn't make any money on that dance. By the time we rented costumes, no, there was no money to be made. But it was sure fun, and everybody remembered it, and it was on Facebook, and which is great. And I do try to support him and the dancers and the clubs by posting on Facebook. Some of the things that you can do, she was talking about protecting your caller. Come up with ideas on different things that you can do. A couple of the ideas that we have implemented is we have a second microphone on the table. So when the club president comes up to make announcements, we hand them that second microphone. It's not Mike's microphone. He has to protect his voice. So we give them a separate microphone, and he has antiseptic wipes on his table that he wipes off his microphone and that microphone whenever someone else uses it. We want to protect our dancers as well as his voice. And that's about all I have. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, do you have any questions?
Questions out there? Suggestions? Roy?
What is the
we need to. Please state your name and where you're from.
Roy Gotta from New Jersey. And we've heard, I think by the fact that the people are here in the room, they're not the non-supportive partners. I mean, they're at the CALLERLAB convention. I mean, if they weren't supporting, they wouldn't be here. But I think some of them, looking around, I know everybody up there and some of the other people in the audience here who've had let's say, a lot of years of experience. And we talked a lot about all these things we can do to support our and how we can help with the dances. But I think they might like to hear, I mean, these are the little battles, but they might like to hear how you've survived the war. In other words, how you've managed to stay married for 40-plus years to a caller, and some of the things you've had to go through, and perhaps maybe had to adjust and change in your way of life and your thinking, that dealt with the specifics of, okay, we have a caller partner. How have we managed to stay married through those struggles of the 40 or 50-plus years, or in Lilith's case? Right, yeah. They were married when Lilith was 7, but we won't talk about that. So I'm just, if you might want to comment on that type of thing.
Well,
Just before you answer, I want to say something, because I've known Lee and Lilith a very long time. And Lilith said something about if Lee had to choose between her and square dancing. Have any of you seen the way he still looks at her after 61 years? I don't think there's much doubt. I think she'd win out.
Okay, I'm going to let Lilith, you've been married the longest, I'm going to let you answer that question first.
I don't think it's easy. I really don't think it's easy. I think, first of all, I married someone who taught the cha-cha. I didn't marry a square dance caller. And there was once a book, my word of honor, pinky swear, a book written about what Jewish women will do and will not do. And one of the things it said was, Jewish women will not marry a square dance caller. Honest to God, that's the truth. And when I married him, he was teaching the cha-cha. And he was the best dancer that I ever danced with. And what happened was, we were in college, and he was a phys ed major, and I was a drama major. Now, what a cockamamie mix-up that is. I'm the worst athlete in America. But he got to love theater. That I have to tell you. I guess it's a lot of give and take. And the truth is that it is give and take with us. And we really are a team. And, if I had my life to live over, honest to God, I wouldn't change one thing. I never got a master's degree. So because of that, I had the best job in a high school that I adored. And I didn't come home with responsibilities that kept me a lot of the time from going with him. And we were married right out of college. 4 days later, we got married. And if I had my life to do over, I would do the exact same thing, because we had something in common. We loved the dancing together. We loved the traveling together. And I had to be. Now, not all of you. I met callers' wives that don't really love to dance. But I love to dance. I really do. I know Roy and Betsy, between the two of them, they're dancers like crazy. I have to be a boy. I have to be a girl. And where am I? Whenever there's somebody missing who has diarrhea or a headache, here I am, taking over while they're in the John. But that's the truth. We have to be whatever we have to be. At least that's how it was in our team. Not every caller's wife likes dancing. I was lucky. I loved the dancing. I really did. And so that part was good. And we have always been a team. And in the beginning, it wasn't 50-50. In the beginning, it was 70-30. I gave the 70 and he gave the 30. But now, after 61 years, it's really 50-50. It's support both ways. It really is. And he always knew I supported him, and I care. Honest to God, I never get nervous if I'm going to do something. Never for a second. But I worry to death about him always. Always. If I tell you, whenever he's going to perform, I don't think it happens so much on a day-by-day basis at the home dances that become like family dances, because we do it all the time. But I get so nervous. I want him to be wonderful all the time. Much more nervous about him than I am about me. And he's really very wonderful to me. I don't even know how to turn the vacuum on. So, listen, it depends on what matters to you in your life. And vacuuming is not my thing. Cooking, I'm good, but not vacuuming. Anyway, I think it's working like a team always. And we like each other, too. And even though he happens to be loved by so many people, I never questioned who he loved the best. He loved me the best. And I knew that, always, always. And you know what? Even as a mother, he always came first. Now, I tell my granddaughters that that's what they should do too, but it's not always so easy when your kids are little or whatever it is. But he always came first in our lives. Everything really circled around what happened with him, unless our kids were sick. And then they had to be taken care of. Even if I was to travel with him or something like that, that took precedence. But he always came first. And as I say, it's been growing wonderfully together, wonderfully. And we got married very young. And the truth is, if you don't like each other, and you're married to this person, it's not so terrific. But we really liked each other. And when the kids left, we had good times together. I would go with him, certainly when he traveled, almost all the time. In the beginning, when the kids were little, I didn't go all the time. But I did. And it's worked well. It's worked well. He's not here now. I hate when he's here and I've got to talk about him. He left, thank God.
Thank you, Lilith. I have a little bit different perspective on that. My husband was not a caller. When I met him, I was in the 9th grade, and we dated for 4 years in high school and graduated and got married right out of high school. We were married 22 years. We never danced in school. We would go to dances. I would dance. He would watch. We didn't dance at our wedding. He wanted no part of dancing of any kind, period. I had to trick him into going to his first square dance class. People from our church had been inviting us for years, and he kept saying, no, 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 no. And finally, once he said yes, but I took the lady aside and I said, we're not going to be there. And she goes, but he said yes. I said, he said it so you would stop asking. So she and I came up with the plan, and we didn't tell Mike. And he came home from work one night. Dinner was ready. After dinner, I said, oh, by the way, Bob and Blanche will be here in about 15 minutes. They're picking us up for square dance class tonight. He wasn't happy. He went and loved it, fell in love with it that night, bigger fan than I was, and 5 years later became a caller. So it was difficult for me to get him into the sport, but not difficult to keep him there. And consequently, we've supported each other in this. One of the things that I did want to say, though, is if you don't want to go, you don't have to. Somebody else mentioned that. By allowing your caller to go and do his or her thing, that is support. Whether you're there or not, that is support. You're allowing that person to follow their passion. And you trust them enough to go out there and do their thing and come back. And he or she trusts you, whether you go or not. There are people who are going to hit on you. I've been hit on. But you make it very clear that that's not why you're there. And it's a give and take, and it's a very big trust thing. You have a lot of open discussion, a lot of communication. Mike has always come first for me also, even before my kids. And he's my very best friend. So for 46 years, yes, my very best friend.
Since I grew up with it and I saw my parents, they met in the late 40s at a square dance. My father was a caller. I grew up with it. I told my parents that when I was in high school that the man I married was either going to be already dancing or would be willing to dance to learn how, because I could not live without it. When Bob asked me to marry him, he was already a caller, and I told my dad that I was going to marry him. He said, "Do you realize you're marrying a caller?" He says, "You will never dance with him again." And I said, "No, we already have that figured out. We've already talked about it. For as long as he wants to call, that's great, because I will get to dance with all of these wonderful people that I have grown up dancing with, and I'll get to meet all these new people, and I'll be involved in an activity I cannot live without." And then when he decides that he's had enough of calling, he promised me 15 to 20 years of just dancing. So we're going to have to be really old, because he's still I think he's more passionate about this activity now than he was 40 years ago. And I think as a couple, we are more passionate about it now. We have had some pretty stressful times. We've done some really stupid things in the activity. He had a rotator cuff surgery about 15 years ago, and we were told, he'll be fine after 4 o'clock. And so we did not reschedule a caller for the evening dance. God knows why we did that. We showed up at the dance. I'd gotten him home. I found a 4X hoodie, zip-up hoodie, so that there was room for an ice pack on his shoulder. And he was trying to figure out how to use the microphone and his laptop and everything with the left hand. He actually called a marvelous dance. It was an incredible dance. He was so zoned out on drugs. It was amazing. He has no memory of this dance. The dancers felt so bad that they stopped the dance early and sent us home. He has no memory of this dance. It was the most stupid thing we've ever done. Since then, he has now had 3 more major operations. We said he's reached that midlife area where he's had his maintenance. His major maintenance is all done now, hopefully. He's 9 weeks out of hip replacement. He danced last night. It was so cool. But he was also traveling a lot for the first 20 years of our marriage. And I mean for work, not for square dancing, unfortunately. He would leave Sunday night and come home Friday night. So he was home a day and a half. Our dancing and his calling were relegated to Saturday night, sometimes Friday night, depending on when his plane would arrive. We did that for 20 years. I was basically a single mom 5-6 days a week. Fortunately, the travel has slacked off tremendously, and we are now dancing or calling on an average of 6 nights a week. And half the Sundays, it's twice on Sundays. We have, because that schedule sometimes can get a little out of hand. In retrospect, we backed off at the end of one summer about 8 years ago, where he had 70 dances in 90 days. We said, we're never doing that again. And I said, we're not doing anything on Thursdays. We're staying home. If somebody calls for a Thursday, it must be discussed between the two of us. You cannot say, I'm available, because he's not available on Thursday. He's with me. And in general, we do something, well, not necessarily involved with dancing with other people. He's doing music research and etc. But I do have another life, partly. I'm a writer, and I write books. I own my own publishing company. And one Tuesday a month, I'm heavily involved with PEO. I also am a big game hunter, and I fill the freezer with meat. He cooks it, but I kill it. But we do the dancing together, and if you hire him, you've hired me. When we were running for the board, I think he was running for the board of directors for the Lloyd Shaw Foundation, and they don't you don't serve supposedly as a couple, you serve as an individual. But we told the organization, sorry, if he gets on the board, they got me as well. And they weren't sure quite how to handle that. but it's worked out. And he has served on their board a couple of times, and so have I. And so the Board of Governors here is kind of in for some fun stuff, I hope. He just got elected to the Board of Governors, and so they do get both of us. And I was happy to know that I'm not the only partner up there that is involved or is planning to be involved.
I wanted to just tell you something wonderful that just happened in my life. I take line dance lessons twice a week. I used to teach line dancing for a long time, and then I couldn't even have a heart exam in peace. I was so busy trying to memorize all the stuff I had to do with the line dances. So I stopped doing it, but I've been taking dance lessons. And I don't know if you all get dressed in the petticoats and the stuff during the week, but I just got dancing sneakers. The best thing that ever happened in my life. Oh, if you need them, Capizio makes them. Sneakers, black, they're always black. And I bought ones that are called Bloch, B-L-O-C-H, that have a little heel. And dancing in sneakers could be just dreadful. Really, you get stuck. You can't move. But these sneakers are just wonderful. I don't even work for them. I'm just telling you that it would be a great thing for you if you do want sneakers that you can dance in. Dancing sneakers by either Capizio or B-L-O-C-H.
Any other questions or comments? Did we answer your question, Roy? No.
Well,
Our biggest thing is communication.
exactly.
We talk a lot. We laugh a lot. We love a lot. The old saying, live, love, laugh. We live by that. And consequently, it makes it a lot easier to stay married to someone that you can talk to.
As in every relationship changes and morphs. It's like the folk process. As in square dancing, it changes and morphs. Communication is number one. Talk and listen. It's a two-way street.
Any other comments? Questions? Okay, well, we've got lunches in about 8 minutes. So we'll go ahead and end this session. We want to thank you all for coming. Make sure you fill out your critique sheets. If you'd like to see this session again, please let us know. If you have other ideas, please let us know that also. Thank you.